Star Wars is dead. It's a motto you've heard for years now, but how bad is it truly? Well, it turns out that the Acolyte, the Disney Plus show from a year ago, cost Disney more than $250 million and may have blasted the franchise right out of the skies. Folks, there's no disguising, people aren't interested in the Mandalorian Grogu. So, we'll dive into how much damage Kathleen Kennedy did to a galaxy far, far away. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're coming to you from somewhere sunny USA, where the studio is glistening as you're listening to what we have to say. Drive-by journalists, get your jumbo pencils ready, and we're going to explain just how much the cost was for the Acolyte. Not just how much money was spent, but what it did and where the customers went, fleeing away from what they did to George and his dream. Folks, as we do what we do, click the like button, share, and drop a comment down below. And yes, the time is ripe to hit the hype button right now. All right, folks, out of thatparkplace.com, the Acolyte, true cost confirmed. $250 million canceled Disney Star Wars disaster. Now, why is this a big deal today? Why are we bringing this your way? Well, because we now have confirmation of just what a dud this was, but also the Mandalorian and Grogu is not getting the attention that Disney thought it would. Did the Acolyte, did Skeleton Crew, did all of the stuff that they've done, did the Book of Boba Fett, did season 3 of The Mandalorian, did it actually kill Star Wars? Let's talk about it. When that Park Plus first reported in September that the cost of the short-lived Disney Star Wars show The Acolyte had ballooned past $230 million according to US or UK tax filings, many readers wondered just how high the tab really climbed. According to That Park Place's Jonas J. Campbell, who first broke the story on Disney's out-of-control Star Wars spending last year, the final figure before tax cuts and without marketing factored in was a staggering $254 million, according to public records. Jonas says, remember when Leslie Headland said the Acolyte cost $170 million? She was correct, if you only counted spending up until September of 2023. But Jonas can now confirm that the Walt Disney Company spent actually $254 million on the Acolyte, and that's before marketing or tax credits. That's before marketing. That's not, folks, this is just making the show for Disney Plus. $250 million on a show that was mocked entirely. And who greenlit this, of course? Kathleen Kennedy. Jonas posted on X, well, you've seen that. Headland's $180 million talking point wasn't exactly false. It was incomplete. The number she cited only covered spending denominated in British pounds through September 2023. Converting currencies and accounting for additional production expenses paints a much different picture that puts the total cost of Acolyte into sobering perspective. All right, so here's what we need to talk about. How many times have we seen this play out where Disney releases some numbers, we get this stuff, and then years down the road, we find out, no, you all spent a load on this thing, and you wiped yourselves out. And here's what I'd really like to ask. Nat, I go to you first on this. Nat, do you remember Amandla? Do you remember our wonderful, kind, she's basically the Shirley Temple of a generation, Amandla Stenberg, who was the star of The Acolyte. Nat, what were they thinking to let her go out there and do a rap diss track where she mocked fans on a show that had $250 million riding on it? What were they thinking?
Well, I think because they pick who they pick, they're not kind of able to steer people as much as they would want to. And because they can get a lot of backlash if it comes out that one of their actresses or main actors, they got silenced by Disney, like we're seeing with Jimmy Kimmel. So they kind of had to let them do whatever they want, essentially. And they have to rein it back in and tell them, hey, we are the company that's hiring you to do a project, not vice versa. You don't get to tell us what we do as a company. But they've caved again with Kimmel, so.
Right, $250 million. $250 million. This show on Disney Plus costs more than most movies. If it was $100 million, it'd still be expensive. But they bet $250 million on the former personal assistant of Harvey Weinstein, Leslie Headland. Michelle, They're out of control, and we don't get to find out. We have to go through tax documents years later to call them out on what they do.
Yeah, I mean, it's just absurd that they spent so much money on such a terrible show. I mean, their prices are just so ballooned in general. I don't know if there was another way to make this show cheaper, but if there wasn't, they should have just not made it at the end of the day. They would have been way better off to not make this show.
That's exactly right. You're exactly right. And I'll tell you why it's time for them to be truly terrified. And I mean that. And we're not the ones going to terrify them. We're just trying to analyze why they should be afraid. Let me give you some numbers real quick. In the past many years on YouTube, movie studios and distributors will put out trailers. And when they put out the trailers, they'll get a certain number of views in 24 hours. And it's a big deal to find out how many views each trailer got. It tells you what the buzz is surrounding a movie. Deadpool and Wolverine, for example, picked up 365 million views in its first 24 hours. Spider-Man No Way Home picked up 355 million. In Avengers Infinity War picked up 264 million. You hear those numbers, folks. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of millions of views, and that's how we know when something is popular, right? And that we're talking about in the first 24 hours. First 24 hours. We've done the research. Our team has looked into this. Well, folks, what if I told you that the reason that Disney should be terrified of what they've done by spending $250 million on stuff like The Acolyte? Look at this. Look at this. Now, remember what I just called out. I'll say it again. Deadpool and Wolverine, the first 24 hours alone, had 365 million views. Okay? In 3 days, the Mandalorian and Grogu official trailer has not even reached 9 million. This is catastrophically bad. By Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy putting the kind of money they did into abject failure shows. And Dave Filoni, I'm sorry, he's a huge part of this. Mr. Cowboy Hat. What's so sad about this is it's kind of like late night where they pat themselves on the backs, they give themselves trophies, and there's nobody watching them. That's what's happening here. Vash, they put everything they had behind the Acolyte in ways we could not even understand or fathom. Right. They did the same thing with Ahsoka. And now it's going to be in the open. Like, there's no way they have waited 7 years to put Mando and Grogu out there. Spending the kind of cash they did on horrifically bad properties has decimated Star Wars, and here we are. Your thoughts on the idea that Acolyte has, it's not that they spent $250 million on something that performed poorly, Vash. They spent $250 million on their own self-detonation. Like, that's really
a very
something.
Good point. It's not something I've thought about, but yeah, I mean, this did irreparable brand damage, and the loss of enthusiasm for future Star Wars product is incalculable. I mean, it really, really is. And I do wonder if they spent this much on the Mandalorian Grogu movie, which would have been a much better investment. I do remember you saying, Pro, that you felt that the Mandalorian Grogu movie felt a little bit small. With its trailer and everything else. So I do kind of wonder, like, wow, that money could have been spent on so many different things. Right now you're seeing Disneyland Resort, and I just think they just settled the largest wage theft settlement in California history, $233 million, affecting 50,000 cast members. And I think, wow, you could have spent $254 million instead of on the Acolyte to change the lives meaningfully of 50,000 current and former cast members. That's how much we're talking about. I mean, it is a massive amount of money spent on a show that barely anybody saw and no one cares about today.
Well, here's the amazing thing. Everybody get ready for this. So, yes, the Acolyte now, we've got confirmation. Despite what they said, will we call it lies? I don't know. You folks, you decide. But despite what they said, $250 million is what they spent on the Acolyte. The budget for the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, $165 million. $100 million for their big return to the big screen, to the silver screen. Star Wars resurrected, right? $100 million less is what they guess they're going to spend on the Mandalorian and Grogu versus the Acolyte, which shows you they're scared. Because if they were willing to spend $250 million on this swill, and they don't have the willpower to put the kind of budget behind the Mandalorian and Grogu, I think that it's because the people at the higher ups have had to say, listen, we're not confident anymore in this property. And it's because of stuff like this. Michelle, what are your thoughts on the idea that the Mandalorian Grogu is going to have $100 million smaller budget than The Acolyte?
Well, I think that's wise. I think that's trending in the right direction. They need movies that have smaller, tighter budgets because it's just, you're going to be more profitable. I mean, that's just common sense. The only thing I will say, kind of maybe pushing back just a little bit here with the
Push, please.
With the numbers, I just looked up on Universal Studios. Okay, Wicked Part 1 last year had made around 800 million worldwide. Right now on the official Universal Studios, now it's been out one day, the trailer for Part 2, but it's sitting at 1.3 million. And the only thing I want to say about that is I think Wicked Part 2 is going to do very well. That's why I'm bringing that up. I think kind of these trailers are getting lost in the just everything that's gone on in the last couple weeks. I think people, normies especially, just don't really care. If that makes sense. So yes. I think time will tell for the Mandalorian and Grogu, especially can they get that normie audience with with Grogu back and things like that. I think there's still a chance for that, despite those bad trailer numbers, and they are bad.
They're bad. Now you're right, Michelle. Let me interject real quick. Wicked, what's going on with its For Good final trailer? They have split that trailer. Universal Pictures is running it on their channel, as well as Wicked for Good has its own. Wicked for Good is at 5 million views, and Universal Pictures hosting it is at 1.3. So we would combine those together to get 6.3. That is still infinitesimally small compared to those other trailers we talked about. You're exactly right. And so I do buy in. First of all, Wicked for Good, that's a great comparison because it's two trailers coming out in very close consecutive order. So Wicked is outperforming The Mandalorian Grogu significantly. It's at 6 after one day. Mandalorian is at what did we say? 8, almost 9 after 3 days. So Wicked's outperforming it. Yes. That said, I think you've got a really great hypothesis about the whole thing. Maybe you're right. Maybe the world events are pulling people away from these trailers, and maybe people are just not in the mood for it. I don't know. That's a great point. One I had not thought of.
Yeah, I think there's something to it. Again, do I think The Mandalorian and Grogu will be, time will tell on how well that will do. I would like to point out, I said this on our show recently, I think especially with everything going on, especially with Gina winning her lawsuit, I go back to the movie that came out this year, The Ballerina. I believe there was about 6 months left before that movie came out, and they very wisely went back and did some reshoots so they could put John Wick himself, Keanu Reeves, in the movie, and people really enjoyed that. It was well done, in my opinion. I think there's still time to get some excitement and maybe some goodwill back by giving Cara Dune some scenes here.
And that would be the one thing that would break through. I think the
But would they do it? Would they do it?
There's no way. I don't really see them doing it now. I mean, they did have, at least Disney, that is. I don't know about Lucasfilm, but Disney did have nice things to say about Gina, right? So conceivly, possibly, you could get a mandate from up high.
Legally required nice things to say about Gina.
Well, I mean, they she's now working in films again, and apparently they do, I would imagine, want some sort of relationship going forward right there, at least from Burbank, because I think there is some that maybe recognize her potential right here. I think Michelle is correct when it comes to Gina. If you were to put Gina in a trailer, that'd be a big deal. Big deal. And obviously those views would go up substantially. And I think there would be a lot of people that would go. The question is, well, we know what happened when they, suspended Jimmy Kimmel. Do you put Gina in there risking maybe backlash from people that Disney has courted for so long?
Okay, let's play that game then, okay? Now, obviously, The Acolyte is a total 100% failure and a $250 million loss that actually damaged the brand even farther. Yes. But Nat, let's talk about another opportunity for loss. Nat, you tell me, how much is Gina worth? If Gina makes a cameo or a surprise appearance in The Mandalorian Grogu, how much does that increase the box office just by her being in the movie for 10 minutes? How much would that increase the box office, you think?
I guess it would bring in the half that is still mad at Disney for making her leave and for everything they did to her. But at the same time, would she even be willing to do it? What would that say to her base? I don't know.
I hope so. I'd love for her to victory lap on them. I'd love it.
Can you guys imagine? Okay, so maybe Disney's looking at this trailer disappointed, as they should be. Can you imagine if the first official or the final official trailer, because that was more teaser, we get no dialogue, no plot. That's a teaser. Can you imagine if it ended with Gina saying, with Cara Dune saying, "Good to be back," and that's the final shot of that trailer?
And how much is that worth, Michelle? It's at least hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yes.
If Gina shows up for 5 seconds in the trailer and says, "It's good to be back." If she did that, hundreds of millions of dollars. The problem is we're dealing with a company who do they want back?
Yeah.
Jimmy Kimmel. That's the kind of stuff they want back. Do they have the ability? And what would the left's response be to having Gina back in Star Wars? They're terrified of that reaction. But folks, all of the action financially is dependent on Disney getting their act together. And so far, we're waiting to see if they can do it. All right. All hearts and minds clear. Vash, anything left to say about Star Wars?
I do hope Gina does come back, because I think that would reinvigorate the franchise at least for a little bit. But I think I mirrored John Boyega's comments in that they screwed up with the sequel trilogy, screwed up with the Acolyte for sure, and maybe Old Republic is the only place you go. But did they screw that up too? Probably.
And Vash, you finally put away that Amanda Stenberg soundtrack, right? The CD she put out. You put it away.
It's a great one. It's a banger.
I tried to. It was a phase, Vash. We won't remind you anymore. It's okay. I know. You want more. You want more of the Pro Channel, folks, but we've got to head out the door for this video. But fret not yet, for more content is yet on the way. 3 times a day, thrice as nice, right here on the Pro Channel. Oh, what's that you say? You want more than that? Fine, we'll do 4. 4 videos. Well, yeah, that's happening. Folks, as you get ready to go, consider clicking the like button for us. It is a huge help. Also, like, share, subscribe, and click it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. We would also love it if you could drop on down and give us a comment. We love hearing from you. And although we can't respond to every single comment, we often are reading them indeed. Folks, we would encourage you to consider subscribing to our partner channels, that Part Place, that Game Place, and that Pod Place. We love them all. We think you might too. Until the next time we have the joy of joining with you, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
Jump into the water. Why listen to music made by people and companies who really don't like you? Check out Vacation Radio today and prepare for all new content made by the people behind the WDW Pro Channel. It's the place you need for all the music. That should be fun. Hundreds of songs, every genre you can imagine. Listen live on YouTube and enjoy a set list that's always sunny. It's Vacation Radio. What are you waiting for? Every WDW Pro video has a link to Vacation Radio in the video description. Try it out and subscribe today.